Hello everyone, good morning. I wish you're all doing well. Today we are studying conditional type 2 and type 3. We'll start with the second conditional. So as you all know, we have four types of conditional: zero conditional, first conditional, second and third. Let's start with the second conditional. The second conditional is used to talk about hypothetical and unreal situation in the present or the future. For example, I may have something that I wish for in the present but is not true. For example, I may say, I am short, I wish I were tall. And it's also used to explore imaginary or unlikely situations. Imaginary. So remember that it is imaginary situation, it's not real. Let's take a look at this example. If I lived at the beach, I would swim every day. If I lived at the beach, which means I don't live at the moment at the beach, I would swim every day. If I lived at the beach, at the time being, I don't live at the beach. So it refers to an imaginary situation. About the structure of the second conditional, if I lived at the beach, I would swim every day. We start with if plus past simple plus would and the base verb. I repeat. So it's if plus past simple plus would plus base verb. Past simple, you know, go, went. It depends if it is a regular verb or an irregular verb. For regular verbs, you all know that we add ed. For irregular verbs, it changes. Go, went, sleep, slept, see, saw. And for regular verbs like visit, visited, cook, cooked. And don't forget the comma. If plus past simple, comma, and then the second clause. The second clause is a hypothetical or imaginary situation. We can also replace would by could. We can say, instead of saying if I lived at the beach, I would swim every day, I would say if I lived at the beach, I could swim every day. Meaning that if I lived at the beach, there is a possibility of me swimming every day. So we can say would or could. The second conditional is two clauses. The first one is a condition and the second one is a result. If I lived at the beach is the condition, the result is I would swim every day. We can also change the order and start by the result, saying I would swim every day if I lived at the beach. Just one remark, there is no comma in between. If I start by the result, if I say if I would swim every day, I don't put a comma in here. The second conditional, as you see, there is if of the condition plus past simple plus comma plus would plus a base verb. Let's take a look at these two examples. If I were you, I'd take that job offer, which means I am not you. If I were at your shoes, I would take that job offer. The second example is if Lily had a car, she'd drive to work. Meaning that this is an unreal and just an imaginary situation, which Lily doesn't have a car, and if she had a car, she'd drive to work. Remember this one as well. I would is also I'd is a contraction of I would. We can also use these contractions I'd and she'd. So apostrophe D is a contraction of would. If I were you, I'd take that job offer. Why didn't we use if I was? Normally we use the second with the I, we use I was, not I were. But in the conditional, we use if I were with all the subjects. So we use were with all the subjects because it's just an imaginary situation. So I will give you 1 or 2 minutes to write your own second conditional sentences, a hypothetical situation or a dream scenario. You can use these startings if you'd like to. If I could live in another country, I would. If I had more free time, I would. If I were rich, I would. So take a minute and try to finish these sentences. Okay, let me start. For example, if I would say, if I could live in another country, I would live in Sweden. If I had more free time, I would practice more judo. If I were rich, I would help poor people. So these are just examples. And let's recapitulate. The second conditional is an imaginary situation. It talks about an imaginary situation which is not true at the present. If plus past simple, and don't forget about the comma, plus would plus the base verb. Now let's move to third conditional. Third conditional, in comparison to second conditional, it's different. Because in the second conditional, we're talking about something which is unlikely or imaginary about the present. But in the third conditional, we're talking about something in the past, which didn't happen. So it's used to talk about hypothetical, imaginary situations in the past. It describes events or actions that have already not happened, which means something that didn't happen, and you are imagining now a different scenario about the past. It's used to reflect on how things might have been different. I repeat, how things might have been different. Let's take a look at this example. If I had studied harder, I would have graduated earlier. I repeat, if I had studied, which means, did I study? Of course, I didn't study. I didn't study harder, and I haven't graduated earlier. If I had studied harder, I would have graduated earlier. So it refers to an action or something that didn't happen in the past and resulted differently. Sometimes it also expresses regret. Compared to the second conditional is about an imaginary situation about the present. Let's go back to the example I gave earlier. If I lived at the beach, I would swim every day. But in here, this is about the present. I'm imagining a different scenario that is unlikely or just imaginary in the present. In here, I'm imagining a scenario that would have happened in the past. Let's take a look at this structure. This is the structure of the third conditional. If plus past perfect. Let's stop at past perfect. Past perfect is had, like you see here, had studied. Past perfect is had plus past participle. Had gone, had been, had visited, had slept, had left. All these are past perfect. So if plus past perfect plus would have plus past participle. And don't forget again, there is a comma in here. If I had studied harder, comma, I would have graduated earlier. We can also replace would have by could have, might have, or may have. The same thing about the third conditional, the second conditional can be applied to the third conditional, which is the order. We can start by the condition, as well as we can start by the result. If we start by the condition, we say, if I had studied harder, I would have graduated earlier. Or, I would have graduated earlier if I had studied harder. So in here, we start by if plus past perfect comma, and would have plus past participle. But if we switch the order, you start by would have, for example, I would have done something if I had done something else. Remember, if you switch the order, there is no comma in. Now, take some time and take a look at these examples. If Sam had waited any longer, he would have missed the train. I repeat, if Sam had waited any longer, he would have missed the train. Which means Sam didn't wait, and as a result, he didn't miss the train. But if he had waited longer in the past, he would have missed the train, or he wouldn't have caught the train. I repeat this example, so just to make it clear. Sam didn't wait any longer, and he didn't miss the train. So let's imagine a different scenario, an imaginary situation about the past, which is impossible to happen. If Sam waited any longer, he would have missed the train. The second example, if we had taken a map, we wouldn't have gotten lost. If we had taken a map to navigate, we wouldn't have gotten lost. Which means, did we take a map with us? No, we didn't. We didn't take a map, so we got lost. This is the scenario that happened in the past. We didn't take a map, so we got lost. So let's imagine it differently. If we had taken a map, we wouldn't have gotten lost. Let's go to the third example. If he had apologized, I might have forgiven him. If he had apologized, for example, I have a dispute with my friend or brother, and he didn't apologize. If he had apologized, I might have forgiven him. But the reality is that he did not apologize. Take a look at this one. Would have and might have are also contractions of the third conditional. We can use in the third conditional. Normally they are used in spoken English, but in written you should write would have, not would have. Remember, don't write would have because it's correct, but it is spoken English. Let's move to take some time again and try to write your own third conditional sentences. You can use these startings. If I had gone to bed earlier, I would have. Continue. If he had listened to my advice, he would have. And if we had won the game, we would have. I'll give you 1 minute to finish or continue finishing these sentences. Okay, if I had gone to bed earlier, which means you didn't go to bed earlier, but if you had gone to bed earlier, you wouldn't have missed school in the morning. You would have woken up early. The second example, if he had listened to my advice, he wouldn't have. You finish. For example, if he had listened to my advice, he would have found a solution to his problem. The third one, if we had won the game, we would have qualified. In this sentence, did we win the game? No, we didn't. So we didn't win the game. As a result, I'm imagining a different scenario about the past. If we had won the game, we would have qualified. But in reality, we didn't win the game and we didn't qualify. As a recapitulation to the structure, we start with if plus past perfect, which is had plus a past participle, comma, and then would have plus past participle. Remember, we can change would have by could or might or may have. Now let's take this practice very quickly. I forgive Sophie if I were you. Do we say, I would forgive Sophie if I were you? I won't forgive Sophie if I were you. I will forgive Sophie if I were you. Remember, we studied now second and third conditional. In the second conditional, we use if plus simple past, and the result would plus a base verb. In this example, I forgive Sophie if I were you. You have I were you, which is a signal that this is second conditional. So what do we say? We say I would forgive Sophie if I were you. The second example. If I wasn't busy, I to Brenda's party, which means now I am very busy. So I can't go to Brenda's party. So if I wasn't busy, this is in my imagination. If I wasn't busy, I would go, will go, or go. Second conditional, what do we use? Would plus base verb, so it's would go. If I wasn't busy, I would go to Brenda's party. The third example, this is a question. What would you do if you saw, or did see a poisonous snake? Would you do? This is what the structure of the second conditional. What would you do if you see or saw? Which one is simple past? Of course, it is saw. So what would you do if you saw a poisonous snake? The third example, or the fourth, I'm sorry, if I said hello. So in here you have to put these in the right order. Take some time and try to figure this out. The third conditional, we start with past perfect. So if I, past perfect, had seen. If I had seen you, I would have said hello. If I had seen you, I would have said hello. I repeat. In this example, I didn't see you. I didn't see you, so I didn't say hello. But I'm telling you that if I had seen you, I would have said hello to you. This example, if I studied, I have failed the exam. So what do you say? Studied is past participle. What comes up before past participle in the third conditional? It is, of course, had. So if I had studied, I wouldn't have failed the exam. I repeat, if I had studied, I wouldn't have failed the exam. Let's match this to the structure we've already learned in third conditional. If plus past perfect, had studied, plus, and the result you have would have or wouldn't have plus past participle. So it wouldn't have failed. Thank you for your attention, and I wish you have